he made to draw from, and this one here is the Cheech Wizard.
Oh my God.
The Cheech Wizard he would draw the stars from, and that's the actual Cheech Wizard he made to draw from.
Wow. KILLA podcast. KILLAofficial.com.
Instagram UK Frontline.
Beatbox created.
KILLA.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
KILLA podcast.
Good afternoon or evening or whatever time it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is the KILLA podcast live and direct, central London, or central as you should be. And from the Kensal Rise Watchtower, big shout out to my people's Graffiti Kings. And you know what it is. It's Thursday Street Culture Vibes. And what? The royalty levels in here is just upped by about 100. It's like 13 on the volume scale. We have the mighty Mark Bodé inside the place. How are you, brother?
Good. There's no online viruses, I suspect.
I think you're extremely protected, brother.
Yeah, well, got to represent. You're in Bode World Ground Zero here. This is my studio. And
it's killing me. You know what? Back in the day, when you used to say online viruses, that was almost like the only virus you're likely to get, and it'd be on your computer. Nowadays, it is a whole different affair, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's I don't know. It's like being a bug in a jar, you know. My wife and I aren't used to it. We like our nightlife, you know.
Oh, you night animals. You night creatures.
Yeah, she's a belly dancer and I'm an artist. We got a lot of stuff, and a lot of socializing and stuff. But anyway, I should take this.
I love the bohemianness of that. There's something about my girlfriend's a dancer.
My Cobalt 60 get up. I did a Cobalt 60 recently, but I just get out of this so quick.
Yeah. Yes, you're free. You're free at last.
Since there's no online viruses, I think I'm safe.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those that you don't know the pedigree that we're dealing with here, and we work in very different generations, so you'd be within your right to want a little bit more detail on this gentleman here. West Coast, one of the pioneers, well, comes from a generation of pioneers in street art, but not as you'd ever think it. It was influential comics of Vaughn Bodé, your father. And the dynasty continues with you being the proprietor now of the original cartoon style, the original Bodé characters, right?
Yeah, well, my dad never got to see his influence on the street art and the graffiti subway trains and of the 70s, 80s. I mean, my dad, I think the first Cheech Wizard was done by Ree and Chino on a subway train in 1975, but like in November or something. And my father had died in July, so he never got to see his influence. But he knew that his comics were going to be bigger than just comics, like the characters, and he knew it was going to be bigger. He just didn't know how. And I'm so glad I got to experience, like pick up the torch and keep going with it and keep him alive in different ways, and keep my own stuff going. But
I remember seeing a documentary, or at least an interview with him. It's been a while since I've seen it, but from what I understand, he was very proactive and protective of his brand. He was like one of the early people in like comics to really like own his copyright, right? He owned his stuff like quite strongly. He was all about that, wasn't he?
He spent thousands and thousands of hours on his worlds and developing his style. So he was very protective of it. When when he was negotiating, and a lot of publishers would just own your artwork and own whatever you did for them. My father was always like showing the stuff from across the desk. He would never let the publisher touch the original art. He'd always show them like this and go, "You like it? Okay." And then he put it back in it, and then like they never actually laid hands on it. So
I'll just leave this here then. Okay, you just think on that one.
There was one publisher that used to stamp bullshit. He had a bullshit stamp, like a red bullshit stamp, and if he didn't like what you did, he'd like stamp bullshit right across the original art.
What?
And my father was like actually standing way back. But it was a different day back then. You know, publishers just ruled the world, and my father was one of the first creators to go for the creators' rights, and I still own the rights to all his characters. You know.
So you own all the rights to all of his work.
Yeah, and this guy too.
Oh my God! You're here now. I'm looking down here, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not on audio, because I'm looking at that is the come on. Because you have actually, for those of you that are listening and not watching, I mean, for those watching, you're in for a treat, because we actually do have some very VIP archive bits and bobs to be shown on the screen, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I could show you some of the these are some of my dad's sculpting models.
Oh my God!
He made the draw from, and this one here is the Cheech Wizard.
Oh my God!
The Cheech Wizard he would draw the stars from, and that's the actual Cheech Wizard he made to draw from.
Wow!
And later on, they became toys just last year. I mean,
now, but a lot of people, I've never seen that I've seen.
He was like 50 years ahead of his time. I mean, all the time, you know, like these just became toys from these that were done in 1969, you know.
Insane.
And here they are. Here are the originals. I don't know if the reflection is there. You can see
no, we got it. This is just some legendary documentation going on here, Mark. This is amazing.
Yeah, and you know, it's cool because I got this, you know, pick up where he left off. That's his hat. That's my father's hat that he used to wear. that's the Cheech Wizard's hat.
Right, yeah, exactly. It doesn't get more. The buck stops there. Do you know what I mean?
Oh man.
I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, you know, when your father is so incredibly influential, and like you say, when it wasn't, he never got a chance to see it. There must be like not only like some higher levels of pride, but you've the mission brief on that for you must be to anybody that was there to witness the explosion of Graff with these characters being so prominent. You must have had some pride. You must have thought to yourself, right, here's my mission brief. I'm going to make sure that this name lives on and throughout, right?
You know, the moment he died, I was 12 years old, and I was like, my childhood is over. I gave up my childhood, and I said, I'm gonna, you know, spend all my time drawing, and I cut off all my friends of my own age, and I started hanging out with my dad's artist buddies, and not being a kid anymore. So I gave up my childhood for that, but by the time I was 15, I was coloring his work for Heavy Metal magazine, and I ghosted because I was too afraid that they go, oh, he's too young to be in heavy metal. So I ghosted, and they accepted it, and it still looks good, you know, like I did a good job, you know. And
I can't deal with this. This is just too much, bro. This is crazy. So you did the colorings for the Heavy Metal magazines
for my dad's work, yeah. For in 1978, 79, something like that, and and I just finished for issue number 300 of Heavy Metal. It's coming out this July. I just finished doing some strips for them. This is one of the pages.
Oh, that's sick. Yeah.
And this is Cobalt 19, which, you know, is my virus story. Like where, you know, basically I wanted to do like, my inspiration was weightless sex. And that was my inspiration. So I have them having sex, and then the virus comes in through the ducts of the spaceship, and it's not a feel good ending.
No, it's not the happy ending everyone wants.
There's a happy ending, but not a happy ending. But I'm also revived Sunpot, which was in the very first heavy metal magazine. This is a really monumental kind of issue to be in, the number 300 of heavy metal. There's hardly any magazines left to work for. Like in my dad's day, there was, you know, all kinds of men's magazines and Playboy and you know, Penthouse and Wee magazine, and but his very first strip that was in heavy metal number 1 was Sunpot, and I just revived it for another episode, another chapter, because Sunpot dies. Wow. Her father killed Sunpot in the one story he did. It was like 30-page story, and he used to read these things to me as bedtime stories when I was a kid, and I love Sunpot, you know, and then one day I'm just learning to read, and I look on his drawing board, and it says Sunpot is dead, and I read it out like Sunpot is dead. And then, and I looked at my dad, and I just started crying. And I'm like, "What? Why said about that? I am Dr. Electric and everybody." He said, "Everybody, son. They had to die. You know, everything comes to an end. It was their time. They had to go. So they died." And I was like in tears. But this is like something like 50 years later.
Yeah, right.
You know, I can revive this shit. You know, I don't have my dad telling me he's dead. It's the end. You know, like I can actually, you know, like, you know,
go against the story and do it. Revive. Amazing. Wow.
And, I'm just giving you a preview so you could, you know, people go look out for the issue.
It's just blowing my mind, man. Absolutely blowing my mind.
Well, I'm just gonna put a cap in your ass. You know, remove yourself pronto.
Amazing. You know, it's to see that. It's and to have you completely like still in loving the stories and just. Like it's like the next fucking day. It's like this is your world. This is your world all the time, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, when you get down to it, you know, like, you know, as a kid, I was kind of brainwashed in a good way. Yeah. You know, my dad would show me what he was working on. He goes, "This is what I did with Cheech Wizard just the other day. I was at his lab, you know, and then he'd show me the story, and then I'd be like, can I go see him? And he goes, "Yeah, sure. Let's," you know, we'd pack a lunch and go up the hill and wait for Cheech to show up. And he would never show up. And my father I would say, "Well, where is he?" You know, he goes, "Well, he's busy balling broads and doing tricks, son." He's so a very busy wizard. And, you know, eventually he'll show up. And what he was doing was putting that stuff in my mind. So I'm imagining Cheech coming up the hill. And that's a way of brainwashing his worlds into mine. Like as a 5-year-old, you don't know if he's bullshitting you or not, you know?
Santa Claus, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. So I had Cheech Wizard running around in my head,
Yeah.
and so later when I got my skills together, it felt natural just to drop into the style. You know, it wasn't an effort. But when I do my own stuff, it's I inevitably go further and further away in different ways. But when I do his stuff, I'm like back with the gang.
It's like you already know it, isn't it? It's like it's like knowing a language, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a place where we can meet. You know, like, you know, when you lose somebody that's so special to you, and all those characters died with him. And could have, but I chose to revive that, keep them alive, you know, like, so it's like keeping an old friend alive that you want back, you know, from the other side, you know, and it's a trick. It's a universal magic trick.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah,
the characters have defied death and come back from the grave, you know, like that's the trick, you know.
It's the beautiful thing about cartoon characters. I mean, I've been, you know, before, you know, I think, I mean, again, we'll definitely get into the Ree and Chino, you know, explosion of putting the characters up on trains and etc. But of its time, there was no graff. There wasn't anything like that, or at least it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't so widespread, was it? So for it to have been adapted into graff is actually it's such a bizarre twist to the whole story of the comic and the cartoons.
I remember being a kid and going to New York with him and going on the subway and stuff, and there was tags, but no pieces. I think it was pre pieces, more or less, just the early taggers. At that point, you know, 73 to 75, you know, like when I was there, I never saw like pieces on trains. I don't remember that, but I wasn't looking for that. I was, you know, but yeah, Dad, you know, I think the first time I saw a Bode piece on a train, I had no idea what's going on. It was like 82. I was going to school of visual arts. And I was on a platform on West 23rd, and I saw a nonstop go by me, and I saw Dead Bone Mountain. I saw like Cheech and the gang. I saw Bode Broads, and they were all whipping by, and I was just like, the wind hit me in the face, and the art hit me, and I'm like, who the fuck did that?
You're like, what the fuck and how the fuck?
Nobody's risking their freedom to fucking get my dad up. How the fuck did that happen? You know, like, and that was the first time I saw it and realized there was something going on. I thought it was one person, to tell you the truth. It took me a few years, maybe another year or two, to figure it out. But it wasn't in my face. I didn't know any writers back then. I was a comic book person, you know. I came, you know, and I was still, you know, teenager. So I wasn't hanging with the early writers at that point. And I figured out later it was Kel and Mayor that did that piece, and because I explained it to Mayor, and he goes, "That sounds like something me and my brother did," and we didn't get any photos, you know, and so it's just in my head, you know, like. But that was the first one I saw, and then when I moved back to San Francisco in '83, I saw another Bode piece, you know, on Folsom Street in San Francisco, one of his PW17s, you know, one of these models up here, and then I realized it was more than one. I said, "There's more than one. There's something going on here," and then I started to meet, you know, some of the writers in the Bay Area, and then I met Dondi. Dondi was the first one that I met when I was in New York. He came. He sought out my mother's, my mother-in-law's bodega in Brooklyn. He knew that I frequented it there, so he showed up, and my mother-in-law kept saying, "There's this guy. He's Dandy. I think his name is White. Dandy
I
White."
can't deal with this. This is mad.
And she goes, "He's been looking for you, and he's, I told him you're going to be here." So, and then he showed up, and we spent a few hours. He never talked to me about doing pieces. All he wanted to do was know about my dad. And so he kept also saying, like, what was Vaughn like, and what was Vaughn, and what is he, what was his inspirations, and we'd drawn in each other's books, but I was coming from a comic book world, and he was coming from a graffiti, street art world, and we never went like this. It was just like we went like that, and we and then we were, so it was like, I wish he had said, come paint with me, but I would have started me out earlier, because I was kind of a late starter in the graffiti thing. I picked up a can in my 30s, really, hardly did.
Really? Wow.
I did a couple pieces, actually the piece in spray can art, there's a picture of me with a motorcycle, and that piece was, I actually have I'll show you.
We're uply mobile. Here we go.
I have the doors to the spray can.
Look at that. Stop the shut the door.
My friend saved the doors.
No way. That is crazy. The original ones.
Yeah.
Mad.
But yeah, so I have the very. It's like.
Yeah.
I got the originals right here.
I mean,
I'll donate that to the Graffiti Museum or something later on.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about this. I mean, like, you're
I'm lucky to have my very first piece I ever did. Then.
Going back to your time as you were a university for visual arts. Is that right? I'm losing you. There you go. There we go. We found you. It's all right. It's all right. Going back to can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Going back to your visual arts time in New York when you were at the university there, what was the general opinion of graff? Although it just started, granted, but coming from a comic book community and a visual graphics community, what was the impression of graff writers at that time?
Like I said, I didn't know them. Like I who was just graduated. Keith Haring was just graduating School of Visual Arts when I came in, and I was like, I didn't get it. I was like, I saw his chalk drawings. I could have popped out some of these chalk drawings that he did in the subways because he was riding the same trains I was. And I was like, what's the big deal about this guy? I don't know. Simple, like it was almost like stick figures, and I couldn't figure it out. Barking dog, cross, what the guy running?
Iconic shit, man. It's crazy.
I couldn't. I didn't get it. My mind wasn't open to doing the graffiti. What's it? What's the thrill about this? Like I didn't want to get arrested, so I was like, I couldn't relate. I was still trying to fill my father's footsteps and be a cartoonist. And so I didn't have any aspirations to paint in the streets or anything like that. Like I said, Dandy came a few years later. Then I met Zephyr and Revolt, and then it just opened up like a book.
Crazy. You spoke about the time with Dondi. I think there's a really awesome dance that happens when you've got two genres of different who dealing different creative outputs, right? On different mediums and different things. And it's actually, I guess it's the equivocal of like people that are into hip hop being completely obsessed with jazz or funk. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's one and the same, but it's a totally different technique, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. yeah, I just, you know, I had just one thing in mind, and that was to, and I did really well. I mean, as soon as I got to New York City, I met Archie Goodwin of Epic Illustrated, which was Marvel.
Ooh,
They did
okay.
like a heavy metal type thing, but it was done by Marvel.
Yeah.
I came in there all green, and like Archie Goodwin was a good friend of my dad's. I didn't know that, but I just kind of put stuff on his desk, and I was like probably shaking, and he's like, Mark, I love your dad's work so much. He asked me to write Cobalt 60 for him, a long story, but I thought it too personal to him, so I turned it down. But now it's time we do it, you know, and like you and Larry Todd can do it this time, and he gave me a job, and I was like I go to the school of visual arts, and all my peers hated me.
Yeah.
I already had like a national magazine I was working for and having a page rate.
Yeah.
And it was thanks to my dad, you know, I'm not gonna lie. It's, you know,
Yeah, but the techniques still the techniques bled through to you in the second generation.
well, also I gave up my childhood, like I said, to be able to do that and do his work well. So yeah, I have like
Oh, here comes the boy.
this is
Oh my god.
my dad's yearbook
1964.
from 64.
Oh my god.
His first lizard drawings and stuff.
Okay, cool. Sick. Look at this.
This is the first Cheech Wizard strip ever that my father ever drew. 1964. He invented him in 1957. He actually drew the first Cheech Wizard. It was actually inspired by the Fantasia episode with Mickey Mouse and the Wizard.
Wow.
And and then he came home and he drew a hat that was kinked at the top, like in the movie when Mickey gives the hat back to the wizard and he like whips it away from him and makes all the water go away or whatever. My father came back and put the crooked hat and put the feet. So that's when Cheech Wizard was born in 1950.
To have the mind of a cartoonist is just like it must be a beautiful world of its own, isn't it? You know.
First lizard
wow.
used in a strip called the Masked Lizard. Yeah, but
incredible.
Yeah, but
look how detailed it is, man. Look how on the money every page is. It's like it's its own book.
Yeah, he had a real, you know, he wanted to get published, but back then they were giving him a lot of rejections. His style was so out that he'd go into like DC or Marvel or one of these companies and they'd throw his work back at him and say, come back when you learn how to draw.
Wow.
And
I mean,
it was because he just didn't look like Kirby or he didn't look like, you know, any of the classic guys, you know, that did comic. He was pioneering a new look.
Yeah, a new look.
And so he had a lot of rejections. He wasn't very happy, very depressed a lot. But
really, I was going to say
he decided to do it his own way, and it took a few more years. But by the time 1965 to 75, he was a pro, and he only worked for 10 years. And that's all the body of work you see out there that's his was only between 65 and 75. And most people cannot do that amount of work in a lifetime. But he worked night and day. Like he was mainly on Hostess snowballs, you know, these little mushroom things or marshmallow things with with pink frosting.
That's it. Yeah, I know.
Coffee and just stay up for like 48 hours and just do an incredible amount of work and just eating crates of this stuff. I learned to be a good cook because when I went to visit him after my mom and him broke up, I learned to be a good cook because I didn't want to eat, Hostess snowballs and Twinkies. And that's what he offered for dinner, and I was like, "Nah, that's okay, Dad. I'm gonna make something over here."
There's something to be said with it. I mean, like obsessive people when it comes to. I mean, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessive with the process and the creating of these shows. I like the. I'm in love with it. Do you know what I mean? And there's something to be said about those people that go that extra mile, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people think he was on drugs, but no, it was all sugar and caffeine.
Yeah,
and just he had a bad childhood. So he used those places to escape, and so he got deeper and deeper as a child until he created these worlds where he was completely safe.
Yeah,
and that's what gives you that depth. I had some tragedies, including his passing, as a child, but relatively loved, like I was loved. My father was not. My father had to create worlds to be safe, and I was already safe in his arms and my mom's. I didn't have to go as deep as that.
The vibe of like the erotica side of these comics, the tits, this is like a young man's education. You know what I mean? It's like seeing how to draw those things. I mean, when I think of Rocking Jelly Bean and Mo2 and people that continued the art of that, there's still this look and feel of the female form that you and your dad have kind of refined and developed over the years. I mean,
for some reason he waited till I was 7 years old was the magic number for him, where he said, "Son, it's time you learn how to draw tits." And he sat me down and I drew line for line with him, and he said, "If you always draw them like this, you'll always make money." And it happens.
You made some crazy cheddar.
I did. He wasn't lying. It's and I wish I had that drawing because I have it framed in gold.
Yeah, bro, tell you that was the money maker.
Word up.
What are the I mean, now I'm going to open up the toolbox of it, and you can within your right to say I'm not going to talk about that. But what are your favorite tools to use when creating like original pieces of art?
What medium?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I learned the way my father taught me originally was flare pen, felt tip pen. And then using the design markers, which are now discontinued because they have benzene, and benzene was killing people. But, I mean, but you got high. There
was an addictive side to this art.
The chart pack A&D markers. Now I use those. That's for the comics, or when I'm on the road and I'm doing sketches at a comic convention, I use the markers and the flare pens. But when I'm doing paintings, like subway maps, and like I do a lot of subway maps.
Yeah, I've seen. Killed it. You kill it. I love it.
Thank you. I use like I'll project the image onto the map and then sketch it out with a Sharpie or something. And then acrylics, block it in with acrylics, maybe give it a little spray with some see-through spray can or airbrush.
And
then outline it with paint marker and highlight.
That's a lot of different,
So, I mean, but it's fast, like I can do one of those in 2 or 3 hours in most cases.
A lot of different mediums though there.
Yeah, but it works, and it works
Yeah.
fast. It's efficient, but I can do oils and stuff like that. But I put my hand in. It's like I'll be working, and then all of a sudden, all the work I just did for the last hours on the back of my hand.
Well, I'm left-handed. I'm the worst of that. I'll be writing normally.
I hate that. So I rather have something that dries quicker.
Yeah, for sure.
My
back in the day, like when you're doing stuff for like Ninja Turtles, for instance, what was the tools of that time?
Those were done with like Kevin Eastman used this duo shade paper, and I would pencil onto the paper, and then he would do the duo shade. Like it's a chemical, like two chemicals. One chemical gives you cross-hatching one way, another chemical gave you both ways, so you could just gray tone all your stuff after you ink it.
So it gave it gave the shadow and depth.
He froze again.
Yeah, so we were just talking about the piece, but so the piece behind you, that's of your father there?
Yeah, my uncle Vincent Bodé is a portrait painter. And he did that. My father designed the archway around the outside, and then my uncle and posed for it, and my uncle painted it in oils. The background has San Francisco in it, but my father was still living back east in upstate New York at the time it was painted. But my father said, "Put San Francisco behind me," and 3 years later, he passed away in San Francisco. So at that age 33, going on 34. But yeah, so he's floating above San Francisco there. It's come back to me 3 times. This painting was sold for the funeral costs.
Uh-huh.
And then it came back to me again through Kevin Eastman. And then it was... I sold it back to Kevin Eastman because there was a lot of money added on to it by my uncle. And it's another story. But so I couldn't afford to keep it, so I sold it to Kevin Eastman, the Ninja Turtle creator. And then when his museum folded, he gave it back to me. So it's come back to me 3 times. So I figured it better stay with me till I'm gone.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, there's so much serendipity to you and your family. There's things that have been circumstances that it's almost like a written book in itself.
Things are meant to be sometimes. Yeah, it feels that way. And I get visits, in dreams and stuff, like he comes to me and tells me what to do sometimes. And one time I was writing the book of me. I was writing the introduction as Cheech Wizard, and I thought it was good. I thought it was a good, I was in character and everything, but something didn't feel right. And that night I had a dream, and my father said, "Look, Mark, as you were when I was around, and as you are now, I am Cheech Wizard. You are the lizard. Right as the lizard." And he was like, "Don't make me come back down here again." and I wrote as the lizard. It felt so good. Felt really good, like it was natural, and there was no weird feelings about it at all, So he comes down and edits stuff for me. He's a very strong spirit. Yeah.
Dude, that is just amazing. What's your most favorite accomplished piece that you've done? Comic, even if you could really summarize your career up till now, whether it's a graffiti piece, collaborations, like you're saying, from graph writers to illustrators, and what's the defining piece for you where you're like, yeah, I'm super proud of it?
I don't think I could do that. I'm all over the place, like I feel like the last works that I've done, like the new strips for heavy metal is my favorite right now.
Yeah.
When I did a big 5-story Cheech Wizard with Os Gemos brothers, and here in San Francisco, that was a highlight. I did a for this thing in Dresden, Germany. They had a mural that they commissioned me to do for a traveling art show, and that was my father's Junk Waffle #1 cover that I did in spray can. That was like one of my favorite pieces that I had done up to that point in spray can. It was nice. Unfortunately, right at the beginning of this year is like always, this year has been so fucked up in so many ways. No. But they said, okay, we're done touring your piece. You can have it back now if you pay half the shipping, because it breaks up into 5 or 10 panels, you know.
Right.
And it was like a 10 by 15 foot mural. My best I've ever done. And so Kat said he'd take it to the Graffiti Museum in Florida, in Miami, and he would pay the other half of the bill, you know, to ship it.
Yeah.
It got lost. They lost it somewhere in the ocean. I don't know. Like, I think it got into Miami and customs put a pitchfork through it to see if there's drugs in there. I don't know. But whoever it was, they made it disappear. It just like, get rid of this, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a mural. Too bad, you know. Like they just threw it in the ocean or something.
They don't see the value in it in the same way as the normal.
Yeah, I mean, I get some insurance money for it, but still, it's unfortunate. It
doesn't cut it, man.
Yeah. Or somebody over in Dresden decided, hey, can you make this disappear? I want this for my kids' room, you know? Like,
yeah.
I don't want to say no. It's at the bottom of the ocean. That's where it is.
Yeah. It sounds far more romantic. Sounds a little bit more innocent, doesn't it, in a way? Have you ever done Art Basel and those kind of shows?
I did it. Yeah, I did it twice. Yeah, twice. It was good. I mean, it's very cliquey, you know, and there's a lot of people coming in there. I know the local artists aren't thrilled about it because, you know, all these artists, hotshots come from all over the world and hog up all the money and the fame that comes with being there. But the people who are there year round don't get a fair shake sometimes. So, but I have a great time, you know, hanging with my peers and fast cars and stuff like that. But I go to Comic Cons, you know, comic conventions a lot.
Of course, yeah. I've been to a couple of them too. Such badass, man. You know.
Yeah, that's part of my income, and I haven't been able to do that. I haven't been able to travel. But I'm used to working at home, and you know.
Yeah.
This whole quarantine thing is not new to me. And,
yeah, you know, that's kind of the same here, right?
But it's at night is when I feel weird, you know, like no music, no clubs, no, you know, it's definitely have the bug in a jar thing going on.
Yeah, I feel that.
But
you know what I find interesting about you, Mark, as a character and as an artist, is you're most certainly a contender. Like you as an artist, you're constantly pushing the envelope, and you recognize a Mark Bodé piece. Do you know what I mean? Outside of your pops, but what's crazy is that you've got such a legacy that's way beyond your life, pretty much. Do you know what I mean? Like the mystery of the Bode Empire is you're at the forefront of it, and I just find that so. I don't know anyone else that has that position. Do you know what I'm saying?
There has been other sons and daughters that have taken over for their parents. I mean, it's
from street culture, from a street culture perspective.
Not street culture, maybe not.
Yeah.
Not yet. It's bound to happen. It's bound to happen. We might be one of the first. I mean, because street art is only Yeah, I mean, if you want to go all the way back to the cavemen days, you could, but as far as like street art being an art, being a thing, it's very new. You know, we're founding. My father's definitely one of the founding fathers of street culture. You know, hip hop, graffiti. The graffiti characters. There's nobody else.
No one else. Can't be touched. In fact, let me show you something which has just come into my mind, right? The other day, my boy Mir, he's a graffiti writer from around here, but I've just suddenly remembered something.
Mir, yeah.
Yeah, MEAR. He's VOP, NEKTC. Anyway, check this out. This is my boy. He did it for me while we were here. You see that?
Nice.
And look, there's the
there's Cheech right there. Cool.
It's still very much it's still a thing. That's my boy Mir. That's my
man. No. Nice one.
Yeah, it's a great piece, and it's just it's just again it just highlights. I mean, thank God for copyright.
The thing that I tell people is like it's fine to do pieces in the streets and one of a kinds, one of a kind canvases. That's okay, but when people print stuff, like multiples of anything, I'm another artist. Get in touch with the artist, and it's a family thing, and we still own those characters. And a lot of people don't understand that. So I gotta tell them, educate people sometimes. They just it's good to, if you love the characters, to get it up and do it in your sketchbooks and on the walls and in the street. But when you make skateboards or T-shirts with Cheech on them, get in touch with me. We'll work out a deal. But,
I mean, you must. I mean, not that we need to go into any particular examples or details, but you must get that a lot. And I guess that just kind of comes with the territory of a cultural icon. That
you get a lot.
Yeah,
almost weekly.
Really?
maybe monthly. It's like my wife and I go through it a lot. We had to go to Redbubble or something, and people just got crazy with this stuff. They were like, take anything Bode and put it on socks, shoes, whatever, like shirts, hoodies, napkins.
Mind blowing.
I was like, we had to get in touch, with Redbubble and prove that we owned the copyrights, and then we were able to shut everybody down. But it's only a matter of time before it starts building up again, and then we have to go after it. So.
It's mind blowing.
One of the thrills.
Yeah. But and again, it only heightens the fact that what is definitely old news to you, and one that keeps on repeating itself like a bad curry. Like with for anything else that it could probably never happen again. There's only one. Well, there's only these characters. No one else is doing them and has the same cultural value. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've given the time, like, I don't know, I dedicated my life to it, to him, and kept it a family business all these years. Definitely it helps to have new material coming out to keep a property fresh.
Yeah.
If I hadn't been around, it probably would have fallen into public domain.
Yes.
30 years ago, and it would have been very diversified and bitten and remoshed until it's almost unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And only a given few would know who Vaughn Bodé was. That's what would happen if you didn't have me to do new material and educate people and travel and do art shows and keep it fresh, So that's my job, and I try to not to keep repeating myself too much, because it's good, you can parody yourself as an artist.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
But
Where'd you draw the line with that, though,
would
Mark?
say-
Where'd you draw the line with that between your own style and technique and what, like you say, you fold into yourself and you're just doing things because it's the thing people expect, and it's, yeah, like you say, it becomes a parody. Where is that line? Because, do you know what I mean?
You know, it's like everybody wants the Cheech, you know, like everybody wants the Lizard, everybody wants the Broads, you know.
Yeah.
I love those guys, so you know, it's like family to me. So I have no problem revisiting them, but keeping it fresh, you know, keeping it a new twist on it is difficult. You know, it takes some thought.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the opposite, you know, like to come up with, you know, with fresh new ways to use the characters. And but you know, when I'm drawing those guys, I'm very happy, you know, like it just like I'll be grinning for hours and I realize my cheeks hurt.
Yeah, Mark, that's fine. I love it.
I was like, yeah, man, Cheech is gonna do this now. Oh, wait till they see this. You know,
I love it. And we're the same, you know, seeing them and the final result, you know. I watched this documentary on John Kay and Ren and Stimpy, and the you know, the whole animation process of those guys and the characters and the joy that they bring as personalities. You know, these animators, they go against the grain back in the early 90s, and they create these worlds with two guys, a dog and a cat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, definitely. You know, Cheech was my dad, you know, like underneath the hat, you know, and I was the Lizard, the 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid asking stupid questions to the master. That's our relationship. That's, you know, I'm the Lizard. Always stuck in a 5-year-old mind state, you know, like the IQ of a 5-year-old. You know, how do I get laid, Cheech? You know, and like, you know, like that's our thing, you know. And
it's the classic balance of characters, isn't it? You know what I mean?
I'll tell you how the kick in the balls thing happened was my father and I used to box when I was a kid, and he'd be on his knees on the bed, and we had boxing gloves, and I would stand up, and I'd, you know, be fighting him, and inevitably he'd get the upper hand, and you know, and he'd be, you know, I'd be like getting punched all around the bed, you know, and like thrown around. But whenever I hit him really hard between the legs, he'd fall like a tree. He's like, ah!
Something's happening here.
And he'd fall, and he goes, "I'm gonna get you!" And he's like, ah! And so every time we'd fight, I'd hit him in the nuts, you know, again. And he stopped wanting to box after a few times.
yeah, because he knew there was the combo, the signature move.
And the nads. And so he got revenge by kicking the Lizard in the balls in the comics all the time. So that's why.
Oh my God! As a get back at you.
Yeah. So that was
That is amazing how that can be transferred into this other story, this other world.
Yeah. So that's the story. Cheech and the Lizard.
Yeah, man. Fucking great. Mark, it's been a pleasure, bro. With all the tech problems we've had, it's.
Oh yeah. So Heavy Metal number 300 this July is the Bode feature, and then Riga. I'm doing I'm doing an LP with over in UK, like a Bode tribute to Regal. I don't know if you know of him, but he used to record music with Snatch
Really?
and Coma.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's doing a Bode tribute LP. With
what?
With musical pieces dedicated to different characters, and I'm doing some of the artwork for the album, and it will also be the image will be on there, and it's supposed to come out July 31st digitally, and it'll come out through Bandcamp.
Wow.
Vinyl only like 500 made or something like that.
Oh my God, that's
so
sick.
that's stuff to look out for, you know.
Snatch is a bad man.
Right. So Regal is one of his guys that he's worked with.
Wow, that's going to be so sick.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
31st of July, you say? 31st of July?
Yeah, you should be able to get pre-orders for the album itself and the digital copies.
I'm going to keep an eye out for that. That's amazing. That sounds like I can only imagine. It's going to be sick.
The old interior will be a Bode fold out, and then the actual album itself will have the art on the vinyl.
So it's going to be on the vinyl. Wow, it's going to be so sick, bro. That's going to be so sick. Are you going to come into London at any point? I mean, I know it sounds really good because quarantine the way it is at the moment, it's up and down. But if there's
the way I came on to this show, if I can dress like that and go on the airplane, I don't think they'll let me on. That's the only way I feel safe, though. Damn, you know, like.
Hey, seriously, keep you out of trouble.
If I could drive over there, I would. You know.
Yeah.
We
need you over here, bro. We need you over here.
We need the science. We need the scientists right now to figure this out. You know?
Yeah, for real.
So we can be safe
for real.
again.
Create more stories, brother. To create more stories.
Certainly, yeah, always.
Mark, thank you so much for a look out for that as well, guys. Make sure you check that out. Mark, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah,
well, anytime, you know, do a follow-up later on in the year or something we could do.
Sounds great. We'll do a follow-up once all the BS has calmed down, the release is out. Should we do it?
I come out to London all the time, man. Like, I've been out there probably a dozen times, more than any other place in Europe I've gone. You know, I have a lot of friends there.
Well, that's dope. Normally I have someone sitting here and me sitting there, so we'll make sure that we've got the space ready for this one, and the red carpet will be out with tea in the pot and drinks in the fridge.
Yeah. Some pints, too. I'll go get into some English pints, man.
Some English pints, man. Get some John Smiths and some snake bite down. Yeah.
I missed that. Okay.
My brother, listen, stay lucky, won't you?
Yeah, more times. Be safe, people.
Yeah, man. Stay lucky, ladies and gentlemen. KELA podcast. We are going international each and every time. Big shout out to Mark Bodé inside the place. Don't forget to share, spread the love, tell a friend to tell a friend. All right. Stay lucky. Peace.
Peace out.